McConnell versus Trump. Every day that Mitch McConnell opens his mouth, it's like another laugh a minute. Mitch spoke about your stimulus today, and he gave you big promises about when he's going to give you stimulus. The question is, which decade was his comments in? Yes. Meantime, those two people, whatever her name is and whatever his name is, continue to raggle and wrangle. I'm not going to cover it, but I will say there's big focus on Georgia, Texas, and Florida, who can ultimately determine the balance of power in the Senate and ultimately determine your second stimulus check. Big news, great news, and this is McConnell versus Trump. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here, you're here, and Halloween's tomorrow. So are you dressing up like Mitch McConnell? Yeah, I don't think so. It's a great day, and I'm so glad you made it to the weekend. I hope you stay safe. With 100,000 new COVID-19 cases expected tomorrow and today, and some 15 states at 10% positivity rate, I hope you and your family stay safe and we get through this together. If you've not, go to the Finance Channel, subscribe, because we are going to get through this economically together and get our feet on the ground financially. Also, a like of this video. We'll begin using the stimulus, and today we're going to be focusing on what Mitch said. Yeah, we're not going to be focusing on what those two, whatever their names is, said, no. But we will be focusing on what Georgia, Texas, and Florida could be say. Oh, and I'll do a little bit of Alaska in there as well. This all has to do with your second stimulus. All right, let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news as we sit here today is that the eye on the country may be on the president, but the eyes of this channel, which should ultimately and are on the eyes on the path of the Senate. Next Tuesday, the real focus will be what happens to the Senate, not so much what happens to the president. Because to get a second stimulus bill a law, it has to pass the House, it has to pass the Senate, and has to then go to the president. And it doesn't get to the president until it's passed the Senate. Well, Mitch McConnell spoke about that today at a rally to get himself reelected. And if you're wondering, yes, he's going to get reelected. He's very high ahead of the polls. Apparently, he's liked among rich people with strange hair, with strange lobster fetishes. But Mitch spoke about your stimulus today, and he says, yeah, I think you should get some stimulus. And I will get to that middle of next year. Excuse me? What? Just, I don't. Goodness. Okay. Meantime, crazy lady and her buddy with the stiff face spoke yesterday in a war of words, and I'm not going over it because guess what? This is the Positivity Channel, and a lot of people keep on saying, "Why don't you talk about it?" And you know what? There's a reason why Street and Stimulus, which comes up right after this, is a hit. And the reason why Pelosi versus Mnuchin has been yanked from this channel by me, because it's become a lot of, you didn't answer the phone. Where were you last night? I called your friend and you didn't answer. I heard you at the disco. It's sort of turning into that. And I'm like, that's not news. That's just sort of like, why did you go that color of hair when I did that color of hair before? You trying to steal my style? I'm not going to go there. What I am going to go over is the path to get your stimulus, and that's what I'm doing right now. Texas, Florida, and Georgia could determine your stimulus on election night. I'll explain to you why. First of all, Texas is traditionally Republican, and the new numbers out show the number of early voters have now pushed the voting numbers in Texas far above 2016 numbers. Races in the Senate and races for the presidency are a dead heat. It's too close to call. This is after the president really resoundingly won Texas, for his first term, and after senators have really had no problems being reelected in Texas who are Republican. But now the concern is it's going down to the minute. let's turn to Florida. Florida has always been a difficult state for anyone to win. And whereas Joe Biden thought he was going to really lock up Florida and block the president's ability to get to 270, because the president has to get Florida to win the presidency, now the president is showing progress in Florida among Cubans in South Florida, on the Atlantic side, and reportedly this is also being indicative of a House race in which the former mayor of Miami-Dade, who's a Cuban and a Republican, is giving a big run for her money of a first or second term Democrat from the House. Really exciting. The president must ultimately win the state of Florida to get enough electoral votes to get to 270. But what's important to understand is that Florida and Texas may ultimately determine whether or not you get stimulus. Let me explain why. Because the balance of power currently in D.C. is the following. The House is dominated by Democrats. That means there's more Democrats in there than Republicans. That means if they get a bill, Democrats, when they all vote together, all agree on that, when all agree to pass it if it's theirs. And if it's someone else's bill, they all agree to not approve it. Over in the Senate is dominated by Republicans. So when a bill comes up for vote that's a Democratic written bill, in a Senate run by Republicans, they vote against it and it can't get passed. Now, what's important to understand is that over the last few weeks, it was presumed by Nancy Pelosi, presumed by the Democrats, presumed by Chuck Schumer, that the Democrats were going to take the Senate, and that ultimately what they were going to do for the second stimulus package is just, my way or the highway. And when we win the Senate as Democrats, we will just pass whatever we want, and we won't have to deal with your way. We'll just do our way. Well, now it seems too close to call because of Texas and Florida. And then there's this. Georgia. A new twist coming out of Georgia, where there's apparently perhaps two states. I can't keep track of this. I think it's 2 seats that are up for re-election. And in those 2 seats, the way Georgia works is you must win the Senate seat by at least 50%. And there's 3 candidates for a seat, or at least 3 candidates in one of the seats. And that means if they split the votes, 30-30-30, they have to go to a runoff election. And guess when that is? Not this month and not this year. It's next year. That means that on election night, when we look at the Senate, 3 things can happen. 1, we know the Republicans kept hold of the Senate, and the margin of victory is so wide that we don't have to worry about these runoff elections or these contested elections or anything that's still out and undecided. Second, the Democrats win so widely that anything of what I just described also would be much of a misnomer. Or third, that the results are so close and that it's a difference of just 1 or 2 or 3 seats, that ultimately if you have an outstanding decision in Georgia or an outstanding decision or contested election in Florida or Texas, we may not know what your stimulus is. And ultimately what has happened here for McConnell versus Trump is that McConnell and Trump played a card that was not so far executive orders, but it was ultimately a card against the Temple of Doom, and it may have worked. Let me explain what this is with your stimulus. The Temple of Doom wanted big bailouts of state, and Mitch and the president didn't want to do it. And so they said no. She said her way or the highway. I'm going to take your Senate and do what I want to do. I'm going to win the Senate. Well, what happened with the Senate is they passed Judge Barrett. That became an infusion of a record sum of donations to the GOP, to the Republicans, in just the last few weeks. They were very excited about Barrett, so they gave fortunes to these GOP candidates who are running for re-election. And now Chuck Schumer can't get money from the Democrats to give money to win those Senate seats. He's turned to Mike Bloomberg. He said, no, I'm not giving you money. Sorry, Chuck. I'm not giving you any money. I'm not spending my money on that because I spent my money before. And guess what? I didn't get any return on it. You lost it. You didn't hold the Senate for Democrats. And so now the push by McConnell and Trump not to do her highway may have imploded her because one, the Senate may not drop to the Democrats. Two, the Senate has now gotten massive donations to fight the push of her highway. And three, basically, the provisions that would have pitted employees versus employers for good or bad ended with big donations. What's important to understand is that there are a lot of states out there, besides the ones that I described just now, that are also too close to call and may ultimately decide your stimulus as well. Kansas, Alaska are among the states that pollsters just don't even know the results. They have no even way to predict where it is currently. And they look at the situation with a lot of independents running and they're like, goodness. What's important for McConnell versus Trump is that you're going to get stimulus checks, you're going to get a stimulus check, you're going to get hazard pay, you're going to get FPUC, but the balance of power has determined when you will get it. Ultimately, it's not so much the amount. Purple Power is working on that. Purple Power is pushing for MSC. Purple Power is pushing for bigger, bolder stimulus checks. Purple Power is pushing for bigger FPUC, more retroactive into July, despite what some of these parties want to do, just do it retroactive to September. And Purple Power is pushing for more for hazard pay because everyone has taken it out. And so what's important to understand is that after election night, the narrative doesn't stop. We've worked ahead of the game. With Purple Power, what the community of this channel, which I refer to affectionately as Purple Power, has done, is get the narrative out before election night that says, hey, this is how much stimulus check was owed, this is how much we need, and this is where we're going forward. Let me answer some of the broad stroke questions I get on a regular basis in the last 24 hours that are related to McConnell versus Trump. One, is Mitch working against the president? No, now they're working together. Two, what about that letter from Temple Doom? What about that letter from Mnuchin? Don't really care. If the letter doesn't tell you how much stimulus you're getting, why do you care? You can only listen to so much, Melrose Place and Beverly Hills 90210 and Bold and the Beautiful and Young and the Restless on a given day. And after a while, it becomes a little bit too much. What's important to understand is how much stimulus checks you're owed. And what's important is to push for your stimulus relief, not sit back and watch a very bad soap opera about disgruntled Washington people. It's just like, okay, I don't think so. Finally, people always ask me, why is the president not done executive orders? What is he waiting for? What is going on? It's really unclear. And we may ultimately go down election night, and we may go to Wednesday not seeing executive order. It's really unclear what went on with this president. It's been very clear that the president's messaging has sort of gone here and there. And in the last few days, perhaps because of this channel, he's starting to get on message. One of the messages he's delivering that may be consistent with Mitch McConnell's messaging is that he will not put Americans on lockdown, which is sort of an incorrect message because presidents of the United States do not put American citizens on lockdown. Governors of states put you on lockdown. County officials put you on lockdown, and city mayors put you on lockdown, not presidents. So that's why you could have one county on lockdown, another county not on lockdown, or the governor saying, I'm going to leave it up to the counties to decide, or the governor's going to say, I'm going to decide everyone in the state. It's up to the governors to decide, not the president. But the president says, I will be the non-lockdown president. And he says, I want to give you a big stimulus. Now, what he doesn't say, but he's sort of implying, but it's not a clear enough message. If he wants to make this message, he should make it, which is Joe Biden will put you on lockdowns. And this is the part of the message he's omitting, that Joe Biden will put you on lockdowns and he won't pay your stimulus checks for it. We know that because Temple Doom doesn't have stimulus checks for the lockdown period that's coming up. Temple Doom doesn't even have stimulus relief for much of the lockdown months we're worried about. And with 100,000 new cases predicted today and tomorrow, well, this is just October. Imagine November, December. What's important to understand is that when we look at Mitch, a lot of the programs that he proposed, while sometimes are watered down numbers, were generally aimed exactly where you need stimulus. Now, granted, a lot of his stuff was omissive, had omissions. He omitted stimulus checks every single time. He omitted hazard pay every single time. And he watered down numbers like no one has ever seen. He watered down FPUC. He watered down a lot of other things. But so what's important to understand is that he tried at least to think about stimulus. He just Never got it right. Let me go over some questions and comments from yesterday's video before we get to the street and stimulus. JS, prayers for all the struggling American disabled homeless families of people in America. Karen Betts, LALATE, you're rocking this purple power, baby. Purple hair, do care. Loving it, LALATE. Well, I love that. Renee Smith, purple ramp up for the purple power. Family unite. We'll go stay strong, family strong. Amen. Amber Held, Manusha's response to awesome Anstey was awesome. Carolina, good evening, purple power. Donna Bevis, no, it's purple. Looks good. They're referring to the jacket yesterday. It was purple. It's not black. But it came off of black because of the camera lighting. Michelle Davis, wow, don't you look handsome today? LALATE, hubba hubba. Well, thank you. It was good lighting yesterday. Shalelle Morris, stimulus now. Denny Johnson, hey guys, I had bad Wi-Fi today, but I'm here. Well, thank you. You're back, Denny. Kenyatta, Dennis, purple power. Matrisa Grattan, I'm just curious, LALATE, is that Brown Hills painted on your walls behind you on the right? Brown walls painted on you? No. There's a cabinet behind me in yesterday's video. I don't think there's brown hills. No, the wall's white in early mornings LA, or cream. Pelosi turned to Todd McDonald and found he isn't a prince. Frank, it said Terry Rose. Frank L, wouldn't it be funny if next time we see Mitch McConnell, his hair was purple? That would be funny. Toth Alana, God is the winner. Well, he is. If you haven't dropped a comment to today's video, drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you guys say. But meantime, go to the Fun's channel, subscribe, because we're going to get through this together. McConnell and Trump are going to work together, and we're going to figure out where we're going to land. And we may not know on election night, but we'll find out shortly thereafter. Also, like this video. Coming up is the big hit, the street and stimulus. I'm going to have some good stuff. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, stay for LA for more.